Good morning. Welcome back to the Retirement Report. I'm Hank Parrott, your host. We've been talking tax and financial strategies actually go hand in hand. You know, this is one of the things we talk about, inflation and taxes. These are the two robbers, if you will, of your ability to attain and maintain your standard living and quality of life. These can really nail people, and I see it happen so often where, I've related to you stories of clients that have come in. They say, I used to be able to, live on this amount of money quite easily. Now I'm having to take money out of my savings to be able to do the same things. I'm not doing anything any different. Yes, that's inflation we're talking about. And in taxes, here's another one. When you're making choices about things, I'll give you an example of a recent client. Savings bonds. This is one of those areas that, and it could be any kind of interest bearing. When I say savings bonds, I could easily plug in stocks that have, highly appreciated stocks or mutual funds. I could also plug in annuities that have built up interest in them. Well, there are strategies. One of the reasons when you do a plan, and, I haven't offered this, but one of the things, as we do each week, the first 10 callers to my office, 615-376-5325. You can get a free retirement income analysis. This is a free plan, okay? One of the things we do when we'll send out a package. You call the office, they'll send you out a little checklist of things to bring to the appointment. If we needed to get Dr. Friday involved, she would come in and meet with us as well. Send you out a free copy of my book, 7 Steps to Financial Freedom in Retirement. All of that for the first 10 callers. 615-376-5325. Enough of that stuff. Now, let me say that kind of just flew in there when I was really wanting to focus on this part. One of the things that comes to planning, when we sit down and we go over that, this gentleman come in, for example, recently, and as I mentioned, it could be an interest-bearing of anything. So savings bonds, you're putting the money in there, and guess what? For 30 years ago, in fact, let's say 20, 25 years ago even, they were paying some pretty good interest. In fact, I was looking at some recently issued back in 1990, 1991. They were paying, or are paying still, 6% interest, right?
Sweet.
Can you imagine?
That's sweet.
I know. And for that many years, that money has always built up all this interest, though, that's taxable, and in about 4 or 5 years, guess what? Then it goes to zero. No more interest. So they quit paying. So at that point, you've got to take and move that money out. But we've got the taxes on the interest. How do we do this? Planning. Okay? So if we've got 20 of those as an example, or, thousands of dollars or whatever, we don't necessarily take it out at the same time. We start putting together a plan of how we're going to start pruning that tree, right? How we're going to take out some. And here's what we do. One of the things I first do is I look and see, can I keep you in a 15% bracket? Okay, now for a married couple, that means that's about $100,000 a year. Okay, by the time you're done with standard deduction exemptions, all that, if around 100, you're going to be in the 15% bracket. Bottom line, you make over that, you just went, ooh, you get the Cupid doll of 25% tax. Ouch. All right, that's a big jump. So if we've got some cushion between whatever it takes to maintain your standard living quality of life, and there are also ways we can reduce taxable income to do this, by the way, strategies for another show. One of the things that we can do then is if we've got, say, 10,000 or 20,000 or whatever that window of opportunity is, that we can take money out of an IRA, cash out savings bonds, maybe cash out some of these highly appreciated stocks, things like that, and still stay in that 15% bracket, as opposed to no plan, I'm just going to get rid of it, boom, up into 25%, 67% increase in tax on that money.
Well, and that's the secret of always doing that, because there's times where you wouldn't take money from the IRA this year and you're going to cash out the savings bonds, use that so you can keep the income the same. Right. Also with stock sales, because if you've held it for over a year, we might even have a little larger amount of income that we can report, because they're in the 15% tax bracket. Now we do know that after 250 or whatever, you will get hit with an additional 3.9, and again, AMT tax could sneak in. But I think that's what the secret is. If people were to know, then this is how we can do it, and you can plan around those changes instead of just saying, oh, wait, the stock market's going down, I'm going to take it all out. Next thing you know, you've got a $70,000 capital gain or whatever, and now you're paying 20-25% tax on it because of the way you took it out.
This is why when it comes to planning, it's not just a one-time life event, right? We do the plan, then once we got a plan in place, we do regular reviews of the plan. All right, we've got a caller we're going to go to, and this is Thomas. Thomas, welcome to the Retirement Report.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How can we help today?
I have a question on my in-laws back in the early 50s purchased 6 cemetery plots.
Okay.
Over the years, they've used 2 of them, and they have 4. Now, if we sell those 4 plots, would they be subject to capital gains, or because they would be an inherited product, I guess you could call it?
Either way, you buy cemetery plots with after-tax dollars. So theoretically, if you sell them, now, if there was a gain, if you inherited them, that would be a situation. But in most cases, you're not really making a profit on cemetery plots. So theoretically, there would be no reportable income on them. If you did inherit them, you would have gotten a step up in basis, I guess.
How many
in
plots?
The theory. He had brought 6, but there was 4 left.
4 left, and you were able to sell them, and did you make a lot of money on them?
I haven't sold them yet.
He's looking to see it.
You're looking at it? That's an interesting, an interesting one. Yeah, I'm thinking about that. I haven't run into an issue necessarily with that. I mean, I think of real estate as maybe could fall into that. I don't know. But you get, in things like stocks, mutual funds, real estate, you get a step up in basis. I got to tell you, I've never looked into cemetery plots because I guess I've never had where it would be enough of a gain to be a consideration. But it'd be interesting to see if maybe there'd be a step up in basis on those at date of death.
There would be. Because it is considered real estate in essence.
Okay.
But I've never really seen anyone make money off a real estate plot or buying many of them and holding them for the purpose of investment. Normally, something happens, a remarriage, and then we end up with them requesting to be buried maybe next to the second husband instead of the first, and the plot was there. Things like that where we're able to just, normally they'll buy it back. The cemetery will buy them back at the cost that they paid them.
Well, and that was going to be the other part of it. I don't think I've ever seen anyone make a big profit, but if there were, there could be some, I'd look into, I guess depending on transaction, but you may find that the basis in them is such that you don't have to worry about any gains at all.
Okay. The purpose they were bought was for, in case something happened to
the children,
one of the children or something like that, and they just had, or another family member, and so it wasn't for a profit purpose. They bought it just because the 6 were available when they...
Right, and you see that a lot of times with families.
Do you think there is a market for you to be able to sell them to the public versus back to the cemetery?
From what I understand, most of the cemeteries cannot buy them back. But you can sell them and transfer the deed to another individual.
Okay. Well, that'd be one selling, or I wonder if you even...
Would you even know what they were purchased at? Do you have any idea what they paid for them? Because this sounds like this might have been 40 years ago.
Well, it was back in 1950, so you're talking about...
50 years ago. 60 years ago.
60-something years ago.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, I don't think you'd have to worry with regard to the sale of them, and I don't know of any charities that would take them either. But I was thinking charitable deduction would be the next thing. But I don't think you'd have to worry on that. But that would be one of those areas if you do get to the point where you've got a buyer and there's some, it looks like some kind of substantial amount of money that you would be concerned about. You can check with us at the office, and I'll do more research on it for you to help you in advance know what to plan for.
Appreciate it. Y'all have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Take care.
Great call. I love it when people test you a little bit.
That was I got to say that's a new one. That's a new one. I've had people with family plots and that, or where where they've had them, they've inherited them. Usually they find a way to spread them through the family in some way or another. They leave them to someone who will end up using them. So I haven't had it where they've sought to sell them. Okay. Most of us aren't going to be dealing with that one, probably. So let's talk, one of the things I mentioned about staying in this channel between 15 and 25%. It's one of the first things we do also when we're looking at Roth conversions.
Absolutely.
So here's another area. Well, let's say we're done with tax-wise. We've got some money left over. We're in a 15% bracket, and we've got, we could have another 10 to 20 or 30,000, whatever it might be, in additional income that we could still receive and still be in a 15% bracket.
Right.
This might be an opportunity for a Roth conversion where we can just pay the 15% tax. One of the things we'll look at there again, when we project ahead to age 70 and a half and we look at the growth of what your retirement accounts will be between now and the time you reach 70 and a half, we can then calculate what your required minimum distribution is. If that RMD in particular is going to push you again into that 25% bracket,
exactly.
And we can do some things while you're still in the 15 to reduce down the taxable portion, turning more of it into tax-free Roth. Then by the time we reach that 70 and a half, maybe we've been able to reduce the taxable portion down, and thus the RMD is smaller, and we keep it in the 15% bracket. This is where the long-term planning strategies can come in as well.
And I always love that game. I mean, I think of it as a game, I don't know, but it's always a fun one because we have a couple where they only live off Social Security. They don't really need the money from their retirement, but we're able to do these conversions because not only for you, but whoever's going to inherit, and in these cases, they're paying 0% tax on money that had grown all these years with IRS money. So, it's not just for people, quote, that have a lot of money or they're going to have to take out. This is an awesome way for someone that maybe has a small IRA that maybe you're living off Social Security, but you're not touching. It's kind of like your magic little fund you have over there you don't really need. Converting it to a Roth, then letting someone inherit it tax-free is awesome. Or if you ever need it, it would come to you tax-free. So, and if you get it, that's awesome. I love that game.
There we go. That's one. Now, we're going to talk about how to also reduce your taxable income. Okay, some strategies for that when we come back. This is a way that you can stay in that 15% bracket again in the way you take income and still be able to maintain your, in other words, have the higher income as far as paying your expenses, right, but the taxable part of it would be less. All right, we'll share that with you when we come back. Join us here. We'll be right back on the Retirement Report.